My name is Tyler Bennett. I'm 28 years old. And today I was the best man at my best friend's wedding. I gave a toast. I stood next to him at the altar. I watched him cry as his bride walked down the aisle. I celebrated with him, hugged him, told him how happy I was for him. And the whole time, I knew something he didn't. Something his new wife hadn't told him. Something I wasn't supposed to know. She's pregnant. And the baby isn't his. I need to start from the beginning because my head is spinning and writing it down is the only way I can make sense of what happened and what I should do next. My best friend's name is Chris Dalton. We've been best friends since 4th grade. 20 years of friendship. He was there when my parents divorced. I was there when his dad died. We went to the same college, lived together for 2 years, were in each other's daily lives for 2 decades. He's not just my best friend. He's my brother in every way that matters. Chris met Amanda 3 years ago at a work conference. She was in marketing for a tech company. He was in sales for a different tech company. They got talking at a networking event. He called me that night from his hotel room, all excited, saying he'd met someone special. I was happy for him. Chris had been single for a while, had some bad relationships before that. He deserved someone good. Amanda seemed great at first. She was attractive, successful, funny. When Chris introduced us a few weeks after they started dating, she was charming and engaging. Asked me about myself, laughed at my jokes, seemed genuinely interested in being part of Chris's life. They moved fast, like really fast. Within 6 months, they were living together. Within a year, they were engaged. Chris was head over heels. Said he'd never been so sure about anything in his life. I was happy for him. I really was. But I'll admit, something felt off. Nothing I could put my finger on, just a vibe. Amanda was always just a little too perfect, you know? Like she was performing the role of the perfect girlfriend rather than actually being herself, but I dismissed it. Told myself I was being overprotective. Chris was happy. That's what mattered. The engagement lasted almost 2 years. They had a long engagement because Amanda wanted the perfect wedding, and that takes time to plan, apparently. Chris would joke about how Amanda had a Pinterest board with thousands of wedding ideas, and how he'd learned more about flower arrangements and table settings than he ever wanted to know. The wedding was today. Saturday afternoon, beautiful venue, 200 guests, everything exactly how Amanda had planned it. I'd been involved in all of it as best man. The bachelor party 3 months ago. The rehearsal dinner last night, getting ready with Chris this morning. This morning, Chris was so happy. We were in his suite at the hotel, him and the groomsmen, getting dressed and taking photos and drinking whiskey, even though it was only 11 a.m. Chris kept saying he couldn't believe this day was finally here. That he was marrying the love of his life, that he was the luckiest guy in the world. I gave him a gift that morning, a watch that had belonged to my grandfather. It wasn't expensive or fancy, but it meant something to me, and I wanted Chris to have it. I told him my grandfather would have loved him, would have been proud to see him so happy. Chris got emotional, hugged me, said I was the best friend anyone could ask for. Said he was glad I'd be standing next to him today. I'm crying now just remembering that moment, because in a few hours, I'd have information that would shatter everything he believed about his perfect day and his perfect marriage. The ceremony was at 3 o'clock. It was beautiful. Amanda looked stunning in her dress. Chris cried when he saw her walking down the aisle. The vows were traditional, but they'd added personal touches. Amanda promised to love Chris forever, to be his partner in all things, to build a life with him. I stood there holding the rings, smiling, playing my part. Everything seemed perfect. The reception was at the same venue, in a different building, cocktail hour, then dinner, then dancing. I'd given my best man speech during dinner. Told funny stories about Chris and me growing up. Talked about how happy I was to see him with someone who made him so happy. Everyone laughed and clapped, and Chris hugged me again and said it was perfect. After dinner and speeches, people started dancing and mingling. The party was in full swing. Chris and Amanda were on the dance floor, surrounded by family and friends. Everything was exactly as it should be. I needed some air. The venue was warm and crowded, and I'd been on all day, helping Chris get ready, taking photos, giving the speech, making sure everything ran smoothly. I stepped outside onto a patio area. It was quieter out there, cooler. A few other guests were scattered around, smoking or talking. I walked to the far end of the patio where there were some chairs and a railing overlooking the gardens. It was getting dark, and the lights from inside cast shadows across the patio. I sat down in one of the chairs, loosened my tie, just tried to decompress for a few minutes. That's when I heard voices. Women's voices, coming from just around the corner. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop. I was just sitting there, but I could hear them clearly. One of the voices was Amanda's. She was talking to someone named Rachel. I knew Rachel. She was Amanda's maid of honor, her best friend from college. They'd been roommates, were still super close. At first I wasn't really listening. Just ambient noise. But then I heard Rachel say something that made me pay attention. She asked if Amanda had told Chris yet. Amanda said no, not yet. She'd tell him on the honeymoon. Rachel said she needed to tell him soon, that he had a right to know. Amanda said she knew she would. She just needed to figure out the right timing. I sat very still, tried not to make any noise. Something in their tone made me want to hear more. Rachel said she still couldn't believe Amanda was going through with the wedding. Said she'd thought Amanda would tell Chris before today. Amanda said she'd tried, multiple times, but every time she got close, she'd lose her nerve. And then it just felt too late. The wedding was planned. Deposits were paid. Everyone was coming. She couldn't call it off. Rachel said, but he needs to know about the baby. My heart stopped. The baby. Amanda said she knew, and she'd tell him. But she needed him to marry her first. Needed the security of being married before dropping that bomb. Rachel said it wasn't fair to him, that he thought the baby was his. Amanda said the baby might be his. There was a chance. They'd been trying to get pregnant for a few months, so it could be his, but it might not be, Rachel pointed out. Amanda admitted that yes, it might not be. Probably wasn't, if she was being honest. The timing lined up better with the other guy. The other guy. There was another guy. Rachel asked if she was going to tell Chris about him. Amanda said absolutely not. What Chris didn't know wouldn't hurt him. The affair was over. It had been a mistake, a stupid moment of weakness. She loved Chris. She wanted to be married to Chris. The other guy meant nothing. Rachel said she was playing a dangerous game. What if the baby didn't look like Chris? What if there were health issues that required paternity testing? Amanda said they'd cross that bridge when they came to it. Maybe it would be Chris's baby, and none of this would matter. And if it wasn't, well, lots of babies don't look like their parents at first. She'd figure it out. Rachel said she didn't like this, that Amanda was starting her marriage with a huge lie. Amanda said Rachel needed to stop judging her. She'd made a mistake, okay? She'd had a moment of doubt and done something stupid, but she was committed to Chris now, to making their marriage work. The affair was in the past. The baby would be loved and taken care of whether it was Chris's biological child or not. That's all that mattered. Rachel said, okay, but she hoped Amanda knew what she was doing. Amanda said she did. And she told Rachel to please not say anything to anyone. This was between them. Nobody else needed to know. Rachel agreed, said she wouldn't tell anyone. It wasn't her secret to tell. They went quiet for a moment. I heard heels clicking on the patio. They were walking back inside. I sat there frozen, my mind racing, processing what I'd just heard. Amanda was pregnant. She was pregnant, but didn't know if the baby was Chris's or someone else's. She'd had an affair. Chris had no idea. He thought the baby was his. He'd been so excited when they'd announced the pregnancy 2 months ago. He'd told me he couldn't wait to be a dad, that finding out Amanda was pregnant had been the best moment of his life, and it might not even be his kid. I don't know how long sat there. Could have been 5 minutes, could have been 30. I just kept running through what I'd heard, making sure I hadn't misunderstood, trying to figure out what to do. Eventually, I went back inside. The party was still going. Music playing, people dancing, Chris and Amanda at the center of it all. She was laughing, dancing with her new husband, one hand on her still flat stomach. Chris saw me and waved me over, asked where I'd been. I said I just needed some air. He said the party was incredible, that everything had been perfect. He was so happy. I looked at Amanda. She smiled at me. That same perfect smile she always had. I felt sick. I made it through the rest of the reception on autopilot. Danced when I was supposed to dance. Smiled when I was supposed to smile. Made small talk with relatives. Helped coordinate the send-off when Chris and Amanda finally left for their hotel before flying out to Hawaii tomorrow for their honeymoon. Chris hugged me before he left. Told me again how much it meant to have me there. How much our friendship meant to him. How I'd always be his best friend, his brother. I hugged him back and tried not to think about what I knew, what I'd overheard, what I was carrying now. After they left, I came back to my hotel room, took off the suit jacket, poured myself a drink from the minibar. And I've been sitting here for hours, trying to figure out what the hell I'm supposed to do. Option 1. I tell Chris. I tell him what I overheard. I tell him his wife had an affair and the baby might not be his. I blow up his marriage on his wedding night. I destroy the happiest day of his life. I shatter his trust in the woman he just married, but he'd know the truth. He'd know before the baby is born. He could make informed decisions about his life and his future. He deserves to know, right? I'd want to know if I were him. Option 2, I don't tell him. I keep the secret. I let him live in his happy ignorance. Maybe the baby is his and none of this matters. Maybe Amanda is right that what he doesn't know won't hurt him. Maybe telling him would just cause unnecessary pain. But if I don't tell him, I'm complicit in the lie. I'm helping Amanda deceive my best friend. And what if he finds out later and discovers I knew? That I'd known since the wedding and said nothing? That would destroy our friendship just as thoroughly as telling him would destroy his marriage. Option 3, I confront Amanda. I tell her I overheard the conversation. I give her a chance to come clean to Chris herself. I put the burden on her to tell the truth instead of taking it on myself. But what if she denies it? What if she tells Chris I'm making it up or that I misunderstood? What if she turns it around on me, makes me the bad guy, drives a wedge between Chris and me? Every option is terrible. Every option ends with someone getting hurt. I've been texting with my girlfriend Sarah. I told her I overheard something at the wedding that's eating at me. She asked what it was. I said I couldn't tell her, that it wasn't my secret to share. She said that sometimes knowing something you're not supposed to know is a burden, and that I needed to think carefully about what the right thing to do was. The right thing. What is the right thing? I keep coming back to Chris, to how happy he was today, to how excited he's been about becoming a father, to how much he loves Amanda and trusts her and believes in their future together. And I think about how it would feel to find out your wife had an affair, that the baby you're excited about might not be yours, that the person you trust most in the world had been lying to you. It would break him. completely break him. But isn't living a lie worse? Isn't raising another man's child while thinking it's yours worse? Isn't being married to someone who betrayed you and is only with you because she needs the security worse? I don't know. I genuinely don't know. Part of me wants to rationalize not telling him. Maybe Amanda really does love Chris. Maybe the affair was a genuine mistake that's over. Maybe she'll be a good wife going forward. Maybe the baby will be Chris's, and this will all be a non-issue. Maybe knowing would only hurt him when he could have just been happy. But the other part of me knows that's bullshit. That's cowardice, dressed up as compassion. That's me not wanting to be the bearer of bad news rather than actually doing what's right. Chris deserves to know. He deserves to make informed choices about his life. He deserves to know who he's married to and whether that baby is his. He deserves the truth, but telling him the truth will destroy him, will take away his happiness, will taint what should have been a perfect day, will make him question everything about his relationship and his future. Is that mercy? Is that friendship? I don't know. I've been thinking about Amanda too, trying to understand how she could do this, how she could have an affair while planning a wedding, how she could let Chris marry her knowing the baby might not be his, how she could stand at that altar and promise to be faithful when she'd already broken that promise before even making it. Rachel said Amanda had moments of doubt, that the affair was during one of those moments. I wonder what caused those doubts. Were they legitimate concerns about the relationship? Or was Amanda just the kind of person who gets cold feet and acts out instead of dealing with their feelings? And I wonder about the timing. Amanda said they'd been trying to get pregnant for a few months. That means the affair happened while they were actively trying to have a baby together, while Chris thought they were building their family. That feels calculated in a way that makes my stomach turn, like she was hedging her bets, trying to get pregnant by Chris while also sleeping with someone else, covering all her bases. Or maybe I'm being uncharitable. Maybe it wasn't like that. Maybe she made a drunken mistake one night and got unlucky. Maybe she's terrified and ashamed and trying to fix an unfixable situation. But even if that's true, she's still lying to Chris. She's still starting their marriage on a foundation of deception. And she's planning to let Chris raise a child that might not be his without ever telling him the truth. That's not a mistake. That's a choice. A deliberate, ongoing choice to deceive someone who loves and trusts her. I called my dad an hour ago. Didn't tell him the specific situation, but asked him hypothetically what you do when you know something that will hurt someone you love if they find out, but will also hurt them in the long run if they don't find out. He said that's one of the hardest positions to be in, that there's no right answer. But he said in his experience, the truth usually comes out eventually. And when it does, it's better if it came from a friend who cared than from circumstances that don't. He said I needed to think about what I could live with. What would haunt me more? Telling my friend something that breaks his heart, or not telling him and watching him live a lie? I don't know which one I can live with. That's the problem. It's almost 4 a.m. now. Chris and Amanda are probably asleep in their suite, happy newlyweds about to leave for their honeymoon. In a few hours, they'll fly to Hawaii for 2 weeks of what Chris thinks is celebrating the start of their lives together. And I'm sitting here with this information burning a hole in my brain. I keep imagining the conversation. Hey, Chris, congrats on getting married. By the way, I overheard your wife telling her best friend that she had an affair and the baby might not be yours. Hope you enjoy Hawaii. How do you even begin that conversation? How do you tell someone something like that? And what if I'm wrong? What if I misheard? What if there's context I'm missing? But I didn't mishear. The conversation was clear. Amanda had an affair, she's pregnant, and doesn't know if it's Chris's baby. She's planning to tell him about the pregnancy, but not about the affair or the paternity question. She's going to let him believe it's his and hope for the best. That's not ambiguous. That's not misunderstanding. That's what happened. I think I'm going to wait until they get back from the honeymoon. Let them have their 2 weeks. Then I'll talk to Chris. I'll tell him what I overheard. I'll let him decide what to do with the information. That feels cowardly too. Like I'm putting off the hard thing. But maybe Chris deserves to have his honeymoon before his world falls apart. Maybe 2 more weeks of happiness is something, even if it's built on a lie. Or maybe I'm just delaying the inevitable, making excuses for not doing what needs to be done. Sarah texted a few minutes ago, asked if I was okay. I told her I would be. I think. Eventually. She said whatever I decide to do, she supports me. That there's no easy answer in situations like this, that I'm a good friend for caring so much about doing the right thing. But caring doesn't make the decision any easier. It just makes it hurt more. I keep thinking about that moment this morning when Chris hugged me, when he said I was the best friend anyone could ask for, when he was so happy, so full of hope for the future. In a few weeks, I'm going to take that away from him. I'm going to be the person who tells him his marriage is built on lies, that his wife betrayed him, that his baby might not be his. He's going to hate me. Maybe not at first. Maybe at first he'll be in denial or angry at Amanda. But eventually, there's a part of him that will resent me for being the messenger, for being the one who ruined everything. But if I don't tell him and he finds out later that I knew, he'll hate me for that too, for keeping it from him, for letting him live a lie when I could have told him the truth. Either way, our friendship will never be the same. Either way, I lose my best friend. But at least if I tell him, I'll know I was honest. I'll know I gave him the information he needed to make his own choices about his life. I think that's what my dad was trying to tell me. That the truth is hard, but living with having hidden the truth is harder. I just wish the truth didn't hurt so much. I wish I could protect Chris from this. Wish I'd never gone out on that patio. Wish I'd never overheard that conversation. But I did, and now I have to decide what to do with it. The sun is starting to come up. I can see light creeping in around the hotel curtains. In a few hours, Chris and Amanda will be at the airport, heading to Hawaii, heading to their honeymoon, their new life together. And I'll be heading home, carrying this secret, trying to figure out when and how to tell my best friend that his perfect day was all a lie. I don't know if I'm making the right choice. I don't know if there is a right choice. All I know is that in 2 weeks, when they get back, I'm going to tell Chris what I heard. And then everything changes. I'm sorry, Chris. I'm so sorry. You deserved better than this. Better than Amanda's betrayal. Better than having to find out at all. Better than having a best man who heard your wife's secret and now has to decide whether to destroy your happiness to give you the truth. But I'm going to tell you, because you're my brother, because you deserve to know, because living with the knowledge that I let you raise another man's child without knowing would destroy me.